What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for the showdown slate between the Browns and the Ravens. Cannot wait to break it down. I took about a 3-day vacation and now we're back covering all of our free content, including NBA, NFL, and NFL showdowns. So let's go ahead and dive into it now. Now, before we jump into this NFL showdown slate here between the Ravens and the Browns, I want to give a quick overview of our favorite partner, PrizePicks. If you guys haven't signed up for PrizePicks, first of all, go ahead and enter code using DGF. For a 100% match up to $100, one of the easiest ways to play DFS today, you simply hit the over or under on any certain fantasy projection. Not only do they have fantasy projections, but they also have single stat DFS projections, rush yards, receiving yards, receptions, pass touchdowns. They literally have anything and everything under the sun. College basketball stats, NBA, NFL. They have NHL, so any sport that you're into, you can really grab a piece of the action here on PrizePicks, and they're ever expanding. So they're always adding player props to their player pool. They're always adding different sports, all that good stuff, whether you're in the esports, regular sports. Nonetheless, guys, one of the fastest growing DFS sites on the planet right now, and enter code using DGF will be giving away a free PrizePick entry at the very end of this video. Also, we are offering a $10 weekly subscription on our website, dgfantasy.com. All the links are below in the description, plus a free cheat sheet for you guys for the NFL main slate today. I'll go ahead and post that to our Twitter, and I'll post that here in the description below. But we've been rolling out some free cheat sheets. Fantasy Cruncher has been allowing us to put out a new format where we pick our favorite players based on a small player pool, and I'll be posting that to Twitter. And if you guys visit the NFL article section, you guys can see that every single day. Not only that, we'll be posting it to our NBA feed as well. But if you guys want updated ownership projections or actual projections, recommended plays, all that good stuff, $10 a week gives you access to that. You guys can just sign up for a free trial, which gives you a weekly access to it for only $10. And if you want to stay long term, we offer $20 monthly packages, and the same thing with our year packages if you guys want to sign up for that, about $204 a year. But now let's go ahead and dive right into this showdown slate between the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens. What I like to do first when I cover any showdown slate is I like to take a look at the over-under. The over-under for this game is at a 47, and the Baltimore Ravens are favored by 3 points. This is a home game for the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like they're always playing at home. We have some pretty crazy price tags on some of these players, but before we take a look at the skill position players, I always like taking a look here at the defenses, whether the defenses are viable. Keep in mind, both of these teams play at a very slow pace, which means they are a run-heavy offense, which I think explains the over-under a little bit more than the good defensive play on both sides. 47, relatively on the lower side of things. It's not too bad. But if I had to make a choice here on whether to fade the defenses or not, I'm probably going to fade them. They aren't the best defenses. They're both relatively cheap, and we don't have ownership projections as of right now. Usually Fantasy Cruncher does upload those in about a couple hours for both the showdown slates and main slates. But right now, I'm not going to be on the defenses. I don't think they create a ton of turnovers. Again, these defenses aren't really elite. I think the offenses are more so the better plays here. So I'm going to be relying more on the skill player positions, not so much on the defenses. Personally, I'm going to be full fading them, and it gives an additional edge because the defenses usually carry some ownership, and they usually don't make it in the optimal. Very, very risky there with the defenses. So I will definitely be full fading the defenses, but let's go ahead and start out by talking about the skilled player position. Starting on the Browns side, I will be going position by position. I feel like it's an easier format to follow for you guys, and it just gives you an idea of what positions I do favor the most in terms of pricing. Starting out at the quarterback position here with Baker Mayfield, he is projected at 14.5 points according to PrizePicks, a 9.8K price tag, and I do think he's going to be relatively higher owned. Now, I don't think you necessarily need Baker Mayfield in terms of cash, and I'll go over that here in a little bit, but I do like the price tag, and honestly, I think it provides a good amount of leverage here. Obviously, the captain spot is somebody you want with high upside, and I don't think Baker Mayfield has the highest upside on the slate. I think there's a lot of other position players that I do prefer. Baker Mayfield, I think, is going to be between about 30 and 40% owned. The price tag is very soft, and I think it allows you to get different in a lot of other positions. I think you can get a wide receiver in the captain spot, one of his wide receivers, if you want to get very contrarian in terms of lineup construction. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, I don't think he's necessarily cash a cash lock. I think he's cash viable. I personally not landing on him right now in terms of cash, but I do like him in terms of leverage. Let's switch over to the running back position, and this is one player I do prefer over Baker Mayfield in terms of cash. I think he's going to be higher owned. I think he has a higher ceiling. 11.2K is a bit of a steep price tag, but I do think he's going to be the bulk of this offense with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, as we saw last weekend, did get 22 carries for 130 yards and a receiving touchdown, so also being involved in the receiving game. However, he was without Kareem Hunt, and we know that whenever Kareem Hunt does play, he is a thorn in Nick Chubb's side, so that's one thing to consider. He is technically questionable here before this game. I don't know if he's going to play yet. We still do not know, but I will pin the post in the YouTube comment section below if we do get news that he does play. If Kareem Hunt is limited or he does sit yet again, he was activated off the IR yesterday, I do believe, there's a small chance he could sit. Dearness Johnson and Demetric Felton, I always get those tongue twisters tied up. I'll just call him Felton at $1,200 and $2,200 respectively are very, very good price tags for the amount of action that they could get here without Kareem Hunt in the mix. We saw what they got last game. We saw Johnson get 5 carries for 26 yards, and Felton got 3 attempts for 2 yards. Now, keep in mind, I know on the surface it doesn't look great, but they were also on the field a decent amount of time here. So if we take a look at the snap counts here, Johnson on the field for 35% and Felton on the field for 16%, whereas Nick Chubb was on the field for about 57% of the snaps. Whenever Hunt is in the mix there, you basically get Johnson and Felton out of the picture. We see the same exact kind of snap count for 57% of the snaps there with Nick Chubb. So if you think about it, Johnson and Felton combined snap count wise are pretty much the exact same thing as one Hunt. So when you combine their price tags, you're looking at, about a $3,600, $3,400 price tag there with just Kareem Hunt. I guess that's the way I'm thinking about it logically, because they're playing about 1/3 of the snaps, a little bit more than 1/3 of the snaps there. So I do like Johnson and I do like Felton there. I think their price tags are very soft and they could easily break the slate. I know they weren't heavily utilized last game, but in a game script where they could be playing from behind, we know that Johnson and Felton are utilizing the passing game more so than Nick Chubb. So bringing it all together here, Nick Chubb is my favorite overall play here from the Browns, just the most sheer upside. Obviously, he's going to be the bulk of this offense, and again, if they keep it close, and they should rely on Nick Chubb. If they do fall behind, I do like Johnson and Felton more so for GPPs here. $2,200 and $1,200 could easily break the slate wide open. I do prefer Johnson. And then switching over to the wide receiver position here, we have projections in bright and early. Jarvis Landry projected at almost 9 points. Peoples-Jones projected at 7.74. And Higgins at 4.4 points. And when you look at them in terms of the price tags, it really does make sense. I don't think any one of these wide receivers are cash viable because we know that both of these offenses do rely a little bit more so on the rushing game. But I do think these guys provide good leverage. Their salaries with the projections do make sense. If I had to lean on one of these wide receivers, I think that Peoples-Jones does provide the best value at 5K just because he has been doing pretty good and is on the field, a majority of the game. So if we take a look at the snap counts here, 85% of the snaps without Jarvis Landry and 60% when Jarvis Landry was playing. So, you're looking at a guy who's pretty much on the field the exact same amount of plays as Jarvis Landry for a $2,800 discount. And Rashard Higgins really isn't involved as much, so at $3,400, just more of a punt play. I do like Peoples-Jones the most out of this wide receiver picture. Don't mind Jarvis Landry, and Higgins is definitely more of a punt play, a bigger GPP type of guy. And then last but not least, we do get here to the tight end picture, and you can pretty much consider these guys wide receivers as well. Austin Hooper projected about 7 points, which is slightly lower than Jarvis Landry, and he's also cheaper. So at $5,200, I definitely don't mind Hooper. The Njoku at 4K is projected at 5 points. And then Harrison Bryant projected at 2 points, and these guys really are all involved in the offense. So if we go back and take a look at snap counts here, Austin Hooper, he's in 65% of the snaps. Njoku 64%, and then Harrison Bryant 42%. So again, makes a lot of sense in terms of the price tags, and honestly, I think Harrison Bryant is probably the best bang for your buck here at 1K. When you're on the field about half, the plays, then I definitely can get behind that, especially at a 1K price tag. And when you take a look back here, he didn't do too well last game. Obviously didn't catch a ball, but the games before that, 3.8, 4.6, 5.3, 2.5 points, and you only have to get to 2 fantasy points to cover that price tag of a 1K price tag. And then last but not least, we have to talk about the kickers as usual. Chase McLaughlin here at 6.7 points is what we have him projected at. Right now, I do prefer Justin Tucker for very obvious reasons on the other side of the ball. But Chase McLaughlin, if you're trying to get in a double kickers type of build, definitely don't mind that, because we know double kickers type of build, if the game is very close, can easily put you over the top there, especially in cash games, and even provide some good leverage at very lower ownership there for GBPs. And then switching over to the Ravens, this is a little bit more of an intriguing picture just because there are better players on this side of the ball. Lamar Jackson. I'm just going to start out by saying Lamar Jackson will be the optimal captain. He'll be 50+% owned, especially in cash. So if you want to get different at all, fade Lamar Jackson in the captain spot. I'm not saying fade him completely. If you want to get very contrarian, fade him completely. I just think that's crazy, because Lamar Jackson not being the optimal player or not being in the optimal lineup is very, very unlikely. Unless, of course, he does get injured. And yes, you do have to consider that sometimes, because last time I said that about McCaffrey, and then he got injured. So Lamar Jackson, again, if you're playing 150 lineups, then yes, you can fade him in some, but he is going to be the optimal captain. So please play him in the optimal captain spot, especially for cash games. For GBPs, I would full fade him in the captain spot, maybe play some of his wide receivers, his tight ends, even favor the other side of the ball there with Nick Chubb. But the reason why Lamar Jackson has so much upside, and the reason why he is the optimal captain, and usually is in showdown slates where games do have the Ravens, is because he is projected 23 points, which is 8 more points than the next highest guy with Nick Chubb. He has rushing ability, he has the passing ability, and he does everything through this offense, especially if you take a look at the running back picture, where they just really don't have too many other options. So again, very unlikely he's not the optimal captain. Very, very unlikely that he's not in the optimal build regardless. The only way that's not going to happen is if he does get injured. So please put him in your captain spot is all I'm saying, at least for cash. Switching over to the running back position here, we actually have some intriguing options, and I'll tell you why. I like their price tags. We saw Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray on the field last game, I do believe. Yep, so Devonta Freeman, 54% of the snaps, and Latavius Murray 37% of snaps. So this is the first time we saw these two on the field at the exact same time, and Devonta Freeman was the bell cow back. Got 16 attempts, was heavily involved in the receiving game as well, so you gotta love that from a PPR perspective. And this guy's only 6.8K. You're talking about a guy who's, in terms of volume, just as productive as Nick Chubb, or could be as productive for literally half the price. So I actually love Devonta Freeman as a spin down. I guess you could call him more of a mid-range type player, but I have a lot of exposure here to Devonta Freeman, at least in my early builds. And honestly, I don't hate Latavius Murray. Again, we know how volatile the Ravens backfield is. I could easily see Latavius Murray being close to the amount of snaps there as Devonta Freeman. We only saw one game sample size, which was last game there with Devonta Freeman. And right now we have Latavius Murray projected for about half of the Devonta Freeman's points, but literally half of his price tag at $3,600. But my whole point is that you're getting the production level of Nick Chubb and then some, with, you know, a discounted price tag here if you combine the two price tags. So I actually love this Ravens backfield. They're really the only two guys that are going to be involved in this offense. When you look at the other options, you have Tyson Williams, who's been, you know, shunned out of the picture there. And Ricard, I guess he technically was involved the last game and got like a carry. But like Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray, it's going to be all them and then Lamar Jackson, at least in the rushing game. So I absolutely love these guys. I think you need Devonta Freeman in cash, and Latavius Murray definitely is a good GBP option. You can have them both in cash, but I do prefer another cash option to your spin down option a little bit later on in the breakdown. And then switching over to the wide receiver position here, these guys are very volatile. This is going to be the first game where we see Marquise Brown, Bateman, and Sammy Watkins all playing, I do believe, because technically Marquise Brown is questionable, but he should play. Right now we have Brown projected for 12.5 points, and then Bateman projected for 4.11, and then Sammy Watkins projected for 7.64. So I do prefer Sammy Watkins in terms of the value that you're getting. He is technically the wide receiver number 2. Bateman is technically the wide receiver 3. However, he's been performing like the wide receiver 2. So really they're kind of neck and neck, and there's not really much of a price tag difference there. But honestly, I am preferring the running back situation with the Ravens, and obviously Lamar Jackson. I'm prioritizing those guys over these wide receivers. But if you take a stab at any one of these guys, I don't mind it. I do think Marquise Brown is the safest option if you can pay up to him at 10.8K. But in terms of ownership, I don't think you need these guys. I don't think it makes a lot of sense in terms of lineup construction, because Lamar Jackson should be your optimal captain. And then switching over to the tight end picture, Mark Andrews has been on a tear as of late. Pretty much his floor is about 10 points, we can assume. Right now, his projection is 11.5 points at 8.2K. I do prefer him over the wide receivers. I think, you know, in terms of reliability here, he's on the field just as much as them, and he's also cheaper than all those wide receivers, at least in terms of a value perspective. So my pecking order kind of goes Lamar Jackson. Obviously, you got to have him in your lineup. Then the 2 running backs from the Ravens, and then Mark Andrews, and then the rest of the wide receivers. And then last but not least, we do have a kicker here, Justin Tucker. He is obviously going to be very high owned. He's probably the only kicker that we can pretty much pen for at least 5 points, especially since he's playing at home. A 4.2K price tag. We haven't penned for 9.5 points. I know this isn't the sexiest pick, but Justin Tucker will be about 50% owned. I believe he was 57% owned on the last showdown slate. But yeah, that will wrap up my breakdown, guys. Here are all my exposures. As of right now, again, these ownerships do change, and if Marquise Brown is ruled out or Kareem Hunt is ruled in, then these projections will change. But right now, we have a ton of Justin Tucker. He's probably my favorite overall value play on the slate. I know, very sexy. Baker Mayfield's popping up in about 54% of my builds. Devonta Freeman, 49, which is a guy we talked about. Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt, if he does play 45% of snaps. And again, this is assuming that he's at a full workload, which he probably won't be, so you can kind of bump down that exposure there. I'm definitely not going to have half of my lineups with Kareem Hunt if he does play. But Peoples-Jones makes a lot of sense, and then Mark Andrews, all these guys we've already talked about. But yeah, my favorite overall plays on the slate are going to be Lamar Jackson at the captain spot, Justin Tucker. Baker Mayfield does provide a little bit more leverage there, and then Nick Chubb. But now let's switch over to my favorite prize pick entry. Like I said at the beginning of the video, go ahead and enter code using DGF for 100% matchup to $100, guys. Just free money to play. If you guys don't like prize picks, you never have to play again, but you guys get a free $100 for just depositing it. You guys can just withdraw it if you do lose all your money. But if you keep winning, then just keep it in there. So 100% matchup to $100, guys. I'm going to be taking the over of Austin Hooper, 2 receptions. Think about this, guys. He's hit the over, or at least pushed, in the past 5 weeks in the game where they will need a lot more of their passing options because they should be playing from behind. Again, the Ravens are slightly favored. In the game script where they're playing a very competitive matchup here, it looks like Austin Hooper with 2 receptions is a very, very safe play. And that will wrap up my breakdown, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this breakdown. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.